So, I love the Xenomorph. Not because I'm a huge Alien fan or anything. I've only seen the first movie and Alien vs. Predator. That's about all I've really seen of the Alien franchise. But I love Xenomorph because he's just a better Demogorgon, and I hate Demogorgon. That's right, you ugly flower-faced testicle with legs. I said it. What you gonna do about it? You don't scare me. You got taken down by David Harbour with a freaking sword. I've squashed more intimidating roaches than you. Sorry, I get sick of facing Demogorgons in game, and I don't like Stranger Things in general, so yeah, let's get back to Xenomorph. So Xenomorph and Demogorgon actually do have a few things in common. Both are licensed killers. Both are highly animalistic in nature, attacking with tooth and claw rather than with weapons. Both are quick traversal methods to get around the map, and both have a mid-range attack which can be used to catch survivors. They also both suck in terms of stealth, but we'll discuss that later. For now, let's discuss the lore. Like we really need to. If you've watched Alien, you know this guy's lore. But let's talk about his biology first. Xenomorphs are a rare race of endoparasitoid aliens that are birthed from a singular queen. What's an endoparasitoid, you ask? Great question. Endoparasitoids are creatures that live in a host animal for the early stage of their life, and then when ready to mature, they ultimately kill the host, usually by feeding on them for early nutrients. A real-world example of this are spider wasps. Wasps who paralyze spiders lay their eggs on the spiders, and then when the eggs hatch, the larvae feed on the spider's carcass while it's still alive. Xenomorphs function in a very similar way. While we can't be sure of the origins of these creatures, we are very much aware of how they reproduce, hunt, and behave. The Xenomorphs have a queen which lays eggs for its race. The eggs carry small spider-like eggs carriers called facehuggers. When triggered, facehuggers latch onto a host and clamp tightly, usually on the face, where they can inject their proboscis into the mouth or any other orifice. After a set period, the facehugger injects its eggs, and at that point, the host's fate is pretty much sealed. The infant xenomorph, known as a chestburster, will eventually erupt out of the host, and then rapidly evolve and grow into their adult form, taking traits from the host themselves. Xenomorphs have acidic blood, which eats away most metal substances. They have a secondary mouth behind the first, which can be used to puncture solid bone, and they have a long, deadly tail with a barb on it which can slash flesh and bone. While a xenomorph is capable of killing most forms of life, they prefer to take prey alive back to their nest, where they can become hosts for the facehuggers, and thus produce more of their own kind. But like I said, that's just the biology. Let's discuss their role in the movie. When the crew of the Nostromo gets a distress beacon, one of the crew, one officer, becomes the victim of a facehugger. Unaware of what this means for him, the crew brings him back onto the Nostromo, where the xenomorph is promptly born in the middle of a meal.
Oh, God!
From there, the xenomorph begins killing the crew one after another. Without a nest to take the bodies to, the xenomorph has no problem just destroying the threats in its new environment. In the end, only Ellen Ripley remains, and after a fierce battle in an escape shuttle, Ripley manages to launch the alien into space. That should have been the end of the creature, but the entity had other plans for it. So, let's talk briefly about my thoughts on the alien. It's hard for me to say whether it's good or bad because this isn't an original creation by Dead by Daylight. This is them taking a licensed creature and putting it into their game. So, if you want to know my thoughts on the Xenomorph as it is, I think it's cool. It's a very cool alien, very iconic. People know the alien Xenomorph just from the design alone. Everyone looks at it and knows what kind of creature we're talking about. And honestly, it is a very creative, very scary type of alien, a very easy kind of villain to get behind. And one thing I do like about it is animalistic. You don't need to spend a whole lot of time just kind of going, what are its motivations? How did it end up like this? It's its nature. It is a natural killing creature. And there's something to be said about a creature that was created specifically for the purpose of killing other creatures to keep itself alive. And you know what? You can't blame it for that. If you have a race of creatures that have to kill other things in order to survive, that's what they're going to do. You can't really blame the spider wasp for doing what it does to spiders. That's how it reproduces. And you might say, oh, but it could do it in another way. Well, that's its nature, and that's kind of what the xenomorph does. Now, of course, we're going to fight the xenomorph. We're going to try to resist them, but at the end of the day, you know, you gotta appreciate something that's like, yeah, it's pretty simple. We kill or be killed. That's what it looks like. And you know what? I can get behind that. Like I've said many times before, sometimes the simplest explanation is the most fun and interesting explanation. You don't need to get too overly complicated. Just treat it as this. You've got an animal that wants to kill you, and it has a very unique means of killing you. Now, how are you going to beat it? And that's kind of what the Xenomorph gives us. So that's pretty much the lore of the Xenomorph. What about the power? Everyone cares about the power, right? So the power of the Xenomorph is called Hidden Pursuit. Let's break this down because this is both very cool, but it takes some explanation. Around the map are 7 tunnel entrances, all located near generators. The Xenomorph can enter a tunnel by pressing the power button near it and traveling underground in a vast tunnel network. By targeting any tunnel, you can choose it and gain a highlighted path to that tunnel. While moving in the tunnel, you gain a huge speed boost and you are undetectable. Not only this, but you charge your crawler mode much faster. What's crawler mode, you ask? Hold on to that question, we'll come back to it. Furthermore, you can see the footsteps of moving survivors above you if close enough, letting you know where they are. You can then emerge from a tunnel by approaching an exit of your choice and hitting the power button. Once you exit, any survivors near you give off killer instinct and your undetectable status ends. Now, with all that explained, let's compare that to the Demogorgon's power, because I'll never miss an opportunity to piss on Demogorgon. Demogorgon's ability is very much different. Demogorgon has to manually set up tunnels in different locations before he can use them. He has to set one tunnel, then set another one before he can use it. Then, and only then, can he actually traverse through them. Now, granted, it is faster for Demogorgon to travel through these tunnels, but there is a big difference. Xenomorph doesn't have to set up tunnels, he already has them set up for him, and each tunnel is set up near a generator, so they give him an advantage on where he can end up. Plus, the Demogorgon's tunnels can be removed by survivors manually. You can't do a damn thing about the Xenomorph's tunnels, already making the Xenomorph incredibly better than the Demogorgon. Now, with that out of the way, you were asking earlier what is crawler mode. I'm glad you asked. The Xenomorph has two modes of movement, normal and crawler. While in normal mode, the Xenomorph is just an M1 killer, only able to attack with his claws. But in crawler mode, the Xenomorph drops on all fours and can shoot his tail forward as a medium range attack. This attack can shoot over pallets and windows and remains in use for the duration of crawler mode. The Xenomorph has to build up a meter to achieve crawler mode, which is done passively while in the trial, but the speed of the charge is increased while in the tunnel system. After hooking a survivor, you're forced into normal mode for a brief period before dropping into crawler mode again. Now, as for you survivors out there thinking, holy shit, that sounds OP, don't you worry your pretty little heads. You have a counter. Connected to each tunnel is a flamethrower turret producer. Survivors can remove a flamethrower turret from this and place it anywhere where it has range to use its flame. While carrying the turret, the survivor has hindered, exhausted, and encumbered, but they also are immune to detection. If the Xenomorph comes within 10 meters of the turret will immediately fire its flame at the Xenomorph. This doesn't hurt the Xenomorph, but rather it gradually decreases their crawler mode meter, potentially kicking them out of crawler mode entirely. The Xenomorph can destroy turrets by hitting them, but again, getting close to them is enough to activate. The turret also has a secondary ability to respond to the Xenomorph's presence. If the Xenomorph starts approaching the turret, it will begin beeping, even if the Xenomorph is underground, meaning that undetectable has almost no benefit for Xenomorph, as the turrets give them away regardless. Which goes back to my previous point about the stealth nature of Xenomorph being almost useless. See, here's the thing. Undetectable perks on Xenomorph are fine, except when a turret is in use. Because it doesn't matter if you're undetectable. The turret will still beep when you're getting closer. So like I said, stealth is kind of meaningless on Xenomorph. It doesn't really help him at all, which kind of sucks, I won't lie. Now, that's the power. What do I think of it? Definitely better than Demogorgon's. I like it. The ability to traverse the map very quickly is very helpful. Crawler mode is an excellent way to take down survivors. Honestly, Xenomorph is probably one of the most best designed heroes in the game right now. But now you all want to know, what about the perks, Raven? Alright, we'll talk about the perks. The alien, or Xenomorph, comes with 3 perks. Alien Instinct, Rapid Brutality, and Ultimate Weapon. Alien Instinct. This perk is a nice stealth perk to add to a kit, but like I said, stealth isn't very good on Xenomorph. When you hook a survivor, you see the aura of the furthest injured survivor for 5 seconds, and they suffer the Oblivious status effect for 20 seconds. That sounds nice, right? The only problem I have with this perk is it's hard to make use of it in the early game, because you may not have any injured survivors when you hook your first survivor. It's far more useful in the late game when you may have multiple survivors who are injured. Plus, if survivors are doing a good job healing each other, this perk can be almost useless, so it is situational. Rapid Brutality, a perk that's good in chase builds but can't work well on its own. This perk takes away your ability to gain Bloodlust. For those who don't know, if you chase a survivor for a certain period, you'll gain a haste status effect called Bloodlust, which will speed you up to catch them immediately. While this perk does remove that ability, in exchange, when you land a basic attack, you gain a 5% haste status effect for 10 seconds. On its own, this perk isn't quite that useful, but when combined with other perks to slow down survivors or to improve your own speed, you can really make this work for you. And then Ultimate Weapon. This perk is honestly very useful and pairs well with perks like Iron Maiden and other locker-related perks. When you open a locker, all survivors within 35 meters of the locker scream, revealing their location. They also suffer the blindness effect for 30 seconds. This perk then goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. So, in conclusion about the Xenomorph, I like them. I think that they're pretty cool. Their power is very helpful. Their perks are decent enough, and the lore is, well, let's face it. It came from the Alien movie, which is a very, very good movie with a very, very good killer in it. So, gotta say, I love the Alien, and especially since, here's the thing. I have a theory. I could be wrong about this, and if anyone has more information on this and wants to prove me wrong, feel free. But I have a feeling that Alien was created to replace Demogorgon. See, let me explain. Back when the Stranger Things chapter was removed from Dead by Daylight, as in they had to take it away because they lost the license, I get the feeling that the creators were like, alright, we need a Demogorgon again, but let's replace it with something different. Let's throw in Alien. Let's throw in the Xenomorph. They did, but then when they got the license back for Demogorgon, they suddenly realized, oh shit, Xenomorph is just a better Demogorgon. What are we going to do about that? And it makes me feel good knowing that Demogorgon was outclassed by the Xenomorph. But before we're done with the Alien chapter, guys, we do need to talk about the survivor that came out with it, Ellen Ripley. A survivor who, in-game, looks nothing like Sigourney Weaver. So, I don't even know why they bothered. But we'll still talk about her and her lore and her perks next time in The Fog. Take care.